So the pasuk says in this week's parsha, Parshas Kedoshim, pasuk Tes Zayin, Leiselech Rachil be'amecha. It says a Rachil shouldn't go in your nation. What's a Rachil? Rechilus. What's Rechilus? Rechilus. Tattle-telling. Tattle-bearing. What does the word Rechilus come from? Where does Rechilus come to do with anything about tattle-bearing? So the answer is that he's like a Rachil. A Rachil in Hebrew is a peddler. A peddler, they go around with wares. In the olden days, used to go from city to city with all their wares and try to sell him something and sell him something, see what he could sell. So therefore, from there comes out the person who wants to speak Lashon Hara. He's like a peddler, because he goes to his friend's house and he sees what is his friend like, what is his friend's pet peeves. You know, he knows his friend is against this and this institution, so he'll go and tell him, do you know what I just heard about this institution? And he'll and then the next house he'll know that his friend, the other guy, is he's against, let's say, the garbage, institute, the sanitation department. So he'll go tell them about a new law that you have to put your garbage in a green bin in a bag, and he'll start up a different. Every person he offers them, he's a peddler. He offers them what they are. The exact thing that they don't like to do, that they don't like, he goes in against them and he tries to get them. So he's a peddler. So therefore Rashi says that's what he means. He's a peddler. He tells Lashon Hara. Now my question is there a problem of writing? Right? We all know you're not allowed to talk Lashon Hara. You can't just talk Lashon Hara. That's an Isser. You're not allowed to talk against your friend bad. Are you allowed to write? Are you allowed to write something about your friend? You write a piece of Lashon Hara down on a paper and give it to your friend.
No.
Would that be Lashon Hara?
Yes.
Why? Let me ask you a question. What about Sfiras HaOmer? Let's say you write down tonight is let's say it would be 22 tonight. So let's say you write down Hayom, right? You write Hayom. Is he Yotze like this?
No.
Why not? He wrote it down.
Yeah, the mitzvah is to say.
What?
Because the speech is the action.
Oh, the speech is the action. So you're not Yotze Sfiras HaOmer. You don't get your mitzvah Sfiras HaOmer by writing it.
No.
So why by Lashon Hara, if you write down, why is Lashon Hara a problem? The speech is the action. Ask anyone, what is the mitzvah of Lashon Hara? You shouldn't speak bad about your friend.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be go tail-bearing. So there too, if you write it down, shouldn't be anything.
Permanent.
So Sfiras HaOmer is also permanent.
But it's only for the day.
No.
What do you mean? What's for the day? Which day?
For the day that you say that you've
which case? By Sfiras HaOmer?
Yes.
Sfiras HaOmer, it's for the day. Yes, for today. So we got to write it down. So you got to write it today. Write today is Hayom Es Shlosh Esrim. Write it down, and you're good.
Yeah.
But
the day changes.
Pesach is saying
one day to the next.
Okay, so every night you write down the new day.
But when you write something bad about someone, it's forever.
Unless you burn it. Maybe you burn the paper.
Yeah. So if nobody reads it, nothing happens. If you write
but if you
the person who would read it has the mitzvah, not the one who wrote it. So
if you write it and what happens?
And nobody reads it.
What do you do with it? You take a
stick it in your pocket.
No, you take it right, stick it in your pocket.
Your pants.
If you wash your no, then it didn't go anywhere.
Okay, so it only has an impact if someone else reads it.
Okay,
So with Sfiras HaOmer, if you write it down, someone else reads it, that person gets the mitzvah.
He gets the mitzvah?
Not you.
If I write Sfiras HaOmer in a paper and someone else reads it, then he gets the mitzvah?
He reads it aloud.
If he reads it aloud. But he doesn't need a paper. Let's say he can read it by heart also. So my writing didn't do anything for him. I want to know, could the writing help for me? For me to write Sfiras HaOmer, could that help for me?
No.
No, it doesn't. So it doesn't help for anyone then. Right? Sfira wouldn't help for anyone.
So, if you're in the middle of an empty forest,
right?
Take Lashon Hara.
Yeah.
Nobody's listening. Is that an aveir or not?
If you're in an empty forest and no one hears you say Lashon Hara, then you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay.
But the point you gave it to your friend to read.
Maybe if you're in the forest and you say lashon hara, maybe that's the bad midah, the bad character trait is coming out. That maybe that idea is not good. But I don't think he will get the aveira of lo selech rachel ba'amecha. That's true. But in terms of he didn't tell anyone. So, but here I want to know if he writes it and he gives it to his friend. Here it is. David, open it up when you get home, and then
the issue are still
for you and
causing the ill feelings. The problem
But
is
he
the ill
distributes it. No, he distributed
so what do I say? That the problem of lashon hara is the bringing the bad feelings about.
No, the distributing
it damages.
And damaging.
The problem is distributing it. You distributed it.
Or did you whether it goes
Through speech or through writing
or through writing
or through email, doesn't matter. You distributed it. The problem is distributing it.
So it doesn't mean with your mouth per se.
No.
So
because technically speaking, if
could be something like that.
If I sit, for example, in my washroom and nobody's in the house, and I,
what do you do? You
swear about everybody and say lashon hara about everybody, or I type it on a computer to everybody, but I close or erase, and it's the same thing.
So
nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Yeah.
Right. But if you send it,
if you
send it on the computer,
that's it.
That's it. What were you saying?
Is there a difference in speaking lashon hara as opposed to writing rechulis? I mean, is there a difference between
lashon hara or rechilas?
Yeah, like
first let's speak out. What's the difference between lashon hara and rechilas? Lashon hara means, right? There's just two categories in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim. Lashon hara just means when I say something bad about my friend. I tell one person about my friend. That's lashon hara. Rechilas is a little bit different. That let's say I tell my friend, do you know what he said about you? I make it like I stir up a whole problem here. I say, he was trying to start up and he's speaking bad about you, or he's trying to do something to you. That's called rechilos.
Like tattletailing.
It's like tattletailing, but I'm telling you what someone else is trying to do to you.
But it can still be considered lashon hara.
Right. So it's
lashon hara is
right. So it's
telling the truth about
yes.
someone something bad.
So right. So it's a branch of like a different type of.
It's like a subcategory.
Subcategory of lashon hara. Right. That's what you mean. But I don't think it's a difference. I think it will both be the same. So if Pesach is saying and Neil is saying that it's a problem to write it. So I would say it's the same thing with rechilas. So you cannot write it. But in terms of Sfiros Omer, so you're going to say Sfiros Omer is different. What's the difference? So there it seems that the mitzvahs you have to say it. You have to say it. There's a difference on how it comes out. Now, although it's a question, but it seems that that's the idea, that by Sfiros Omer it doesn't help.
Because the mitzvah is the counting, not the machshava.
Right, but even writing, even where writing is one step further than the thought, you even wrote it, but that still is not enough. You have to actually say it. Now, let's say you tell it to someone, so we see here that it's not just to tell it to someone, but it's the damage that it causes. For example, let's say I tell someone lashon hara. So what do you do? What's the kapara? How does someone get forgiveness if he speaks lashon hara?
You have to go and tell that person what you said about them.
So you need to. There's two ways to get out of lashon hara. One way to get out of lashon hara is you can ask him forgiveness, and he'll forgive you. But there's even a better way, and the better way is you could even get out of it that it was never lashon hara. How do you get out of and undo the aveira? Right? How do you undo an aveira? Usually you can't undo an aveira. If someone is jealous, he's not allowed to be jealous, right? You can't undo what you did. But there's a way you can undo it.
Undo it?
Undo your aveira.
How?
You can give a tzedakah.
No.
Can you say something?
How does tzedakah help?
Sorry.
You could what? If you tell him you're sorry.
Only tshuva can undo that.
Tshuva can undo it.
Korban, I guess you're going with a korban here.
That's similar. It's similar to what Nathan's saying.
But it's still tshuva.
It's still tshuva. But there's a way to undo the aveira that you never did it, and that would be that let's say you told your friend something about someone else. So if you're able to explain yourself and go over to him and tell him what you meant, then you can undo the lashon hara. right? Which means the lashon hara is only going to be as fatal as the damage that it causes. So if I can undo the damage and I can explain to him that I really meant to say such and such, right? You have to think of different examples, but the different examples
To almost kind of to twist what was said in a way that's
right.
not damaging anyone.
Right. If you give it over and explain what you meant, and he believes you, which means you need to give it over so good
Right.
that he believes you. Okay, it's not enough to just explain what you want to explain what you say. You have to explain it real.
Are you suggesting to get out of it by going around the truth?
Now the next question. That's the next question now.
Or he was sincere when he said it, that it was misunderstood.
If it's sincere, if it's a white lie.
Now, if he's sincere, and he didn't mean it like that, then he for sure could go.
Okay, then he can do it with a good conscience.
Right. But
if he wants to do it just to not cause the problem,
right,
and circumvent the truth, can he do it? Because if that's the case, then he could just say, what that person said about you is not true. I didn't say it. I mean, you could just come out with red and lie.
No, I mean, let's say I'm telling Reuven something bad about Shimon.
Right.
So I say, right, let's say, someone once told me, lashon hara about, we'll call him Reuven. So this fellow is an old man. He came over. He was telling me, that there's a fellow Reuven, and Reuven he had a hard childhood, and he wasn't really a good person in his childhood. He was telling me, I don't know why, whatever. He was just he slipped. So let's say he would want to do teshuvah on that. So what he would have to come over to me, and he would explain to me that Reuven really it wasn't his fault, and he really some of the things that he was really forced to do, and he was he had a very hard childhood. He didn't have parents to help him out, and
I guess a good example is like if you say someone like, they broke Shabbat, or maybe they had to break Shabbat, or like their wife was pregnant or whatever, but they didn't know that, so they ended up telling someone that he broke Shabbat, and then only later he found out that he broke Shabbat for a certain reason.
Yeah. So example would be if you tell someone, I saw him being Machalo Shabbos, I saw someone get in a car on Shabbos. I saw Reuven get in a car on Shabbos. So then, what I'd have to do is I'd have to go and explain to the person who I told it over to, I'd have to say, I said that he broke Shabbos, but in reality he did not break Shabbos because he was allowed. He went in the car, but he was allowed to get in the car. And I have to explain what I meant, and then I take away all the negative gossip and damage that I did it and I said against him. Then I take it away so I can undo the avera.
But that's assuming either that it has not spread around, or that the correction is also going to spread around equally.
Or that right. But this is all assuming that it hasn't gotten spread around, which is one of the reasons why this topic that I'm speaking about right now is one of the most fatal, dangerous things. Now that it's forbidden to say to write lashon hara, right? Assuming that this is right, and the Chafetz Chaim is brought down, you cannot write lashon hara. So if someone writes in the newspaper and it gets printed a piece of lashon hara, he's going to have big problems, because in order to undo that, he's going to have to make sure that he tells it over or explains himself somehow to everyone who reads the newspaper. That's how it's going to be such a big problem. Or a computer, right? Let's say someone writes out something against someone else on the computer, especially nowadays that they can have all these types of, you could send out an email or a text or something, and you could speak lashon hara about someone. Let's say someone has what's it called? You could put a blob about a guy.
Yeah, blob.
A blob. You could write a blob, and other people could read it.
You can put it on a blog.
A blog. Put a blog, right? You don't know about these things, Nathan. You're Tahar. Nathan's a pure person. All he knows is his father took him with a talus to the pre-1A to learn the Aleph Beis, covered his eyes. So he doesn't know what these computers are, his emails. But that's a big problem. You push one button, and the emails get sent out. Who knows who? You don't even know. So that's the hardest thing to undo. You compare it to taking a feather pillow, and you take a feather pillow and you go up to the roof and you bang it against the roof, and then it bursts open, and all the feathers start flying around, and they fly all the way into the wind. You don't know where they're going, those feathers. You can't get back all the feathers, put them back in the pillow. That's like Lashon Hara that is said to a lot of people, which would be a classic case of written. If it's written, then it's a problem. Up to the point, just to show you that it's a real problem, it's a Gemara. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin about a posek that you have a court. So the court, let's say they find someone guilty. So what should they have to write out their verdict? So they write on the paper that he's guilty. So the Gemara has an argument. What should they write? Should they write the following words? Should they write, let's say, that he's innocent? Or should they write more details? They should write that this judge and this judge said that he should be guilty, right? Pliny upliny mizakin, upliny mechayvin. This judge Ruvain and Judge Shimon said he's guilty. Judge Levi and Yehuda said he's innocent, and the final ruling is he's guilty. Is that how you write the verdict? Or maybe you should just write that the one who's on trial is guilty. Just write the bottom line.
Not mention the names of who had a favorable eye and who didn't.
Right. So the Gemara has an argument, and Rabbi Yochanan comes along, and Rabbi Yochanan says, just say the words that he's guilty or that he's innocent, because it says in the Torah, "Lo selech Rachel be'amecha." It says you can't speak Lashon Hara. So you see from here that clearly, even though they're not going to talk, no one's going to say it. It's just that it's being written on the verdict. So you see from here that you're not allowed to write Lashon Hara, even if you're not going to say it.
But I also would understand it more like, Judge Sach said that he was guilty. Like if you start spreading that.
If what? If they write it, or?
Yeah, if they write like that, like Reuben said he's guilty, Shimon said he's not guilty, and you start thinking, Reuben found him guilty, So that would also qualify here. No?
You're saying it might cause other people to speak bad about.
It would cause ill feelings with the family.
Ill feelings, yes. So Neil is saying that there's another idea that could come out. People won't be happy that judge said he's guilty. It's true, but in terms of the Gemara here is bringing out even one more thing, that it could be it's even Lashon Hara. It's Lashon Hara to say that you're going to be saying like that judge, judge called Rav, he said he's guilty. So you're going to be like saying that like with a negative connotation, like that judge said that he's guilty.
So repeating a judge's verdict would be considered Lashon Hara?
Well, to repeat who the judge was who said that he was guilty. So therefore,
why not to say? Why isn't it Lashon Hara if you say that the person is guilty? If you start spreading around.
No, it's not to spread. But I think you had to write down the psak. You had to write down the ruling. Mm-hmm. We need to know the ruling. So they would write it down. The question is, should they write who ruled against him? So Gemara says you shouldn't. Rabbi Yochanan says you shouldn't because it will be Lashon Hara. So I see from there, that's a proof that even to write is a problem. Now there's one other Gemara which also shows us this idea that you have to always take into account. It's not just what you say, but it's how much damage gets caused, right? Like we said before, if you put the note in your pocket and no one reads it, it's not a problem. And if you write it in the newspaper, it's going to be a big, big problem. So the Gemara says something very interesting. How does one get forgiven for Lashon Hara? What's the article which forgives a person for Lashon Hara? What does a person do if he speaks Lashon Hara, right? What happens to him? So there's two ways that he gets a kapara. One is, what's the first consequence of Lashon Hara? Someone speaks Lashon Hara. What happens?
Leprosy.
Ah!
What was it? What was it? I didn't hear.
Speak up.
Leprosy.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan, pulling something out of his back pocket here. Parshas Tasviyah. Tasviyah B'Torah. That there, Rashi speaks out that the idea why Lashon Hara comes, right, why Taras comes is for Lashon Hara. So therefore he gets leprosy in order that he should do teshuvah, he should do repentance. The Gemara asks, but there's also another way that one gets a kapara, one gets forgiven for Lashon Hara, and that is by all of the parts of the Kohen Gadol's garments, they atone for a different part. So it says that the turban was atoning for haughtiness, the ketonas, the shirt, that was atoning for bloodshed. The belt was like worn over here, so it would atone for any bad thoughts that he had. And it says
these are the ones that cause sarat, huh?
Which one? What?
The ones that the begadim atone for them.
Oh, which? And then the Gemara says that there's a me'il. Is a me'il. Me'il.
But it says somewhere that there are like 6 other things or 8 other things that cause saras.
Well, there are a few things that cause saras.
They're like haughty eyes, bloodshed, lying.
Yeah, okay. It's true. There are a few different. It's a big Gemara here, but we're going on just on the one idea that Lashon Hara. Just so far, at least Lashon Hara. So the Gemara says there's something called the Me'il. The Me'il was the blue robe that the Kohen Gadol wore, and on the bottom of the Me'il, right? You know how the Me'il, it was like a robe.
That was the one with the bell.
It was bells, right? There were little bells. What else was there on the bottom there? There were bells, and there were 2 things on the bottom. There was a bell, and then there was
Green?
What?
No.
And then there was a pomegranate.
Wow. Pomegranate?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let me show you, just to show you that this is Parshas Tetzaveh. I'll just show you the picture. Everyone turn to page 472. 472. Well, it wasn't real. I think it was just pomegranate-shaped tassels.
Oh.
Little like tassels. They were probably made out of material. So you see on page 472, there's a little picture there, and there it shows you a bell, a pomegranate tassel, a bell, a pomegranate, and that's how it went. And that's how the pasuk reads. The pasuk says that there was a top line on page 472.
Oh, yeah.
You see the top line? Pa'amon zahav, right in the middle of the line. Pa'amon zahav, there was a golden pa'amon. Pa'amon is a bell. The rimon, and then the rimon came after the pomegranate. Pa'amon zahav, then again, the same pattern. Virimon, al shulei ha'me'il, on the bottom of the me'il. Saviv, going all around. And you could see on the next page where it went on the bottom of the long robe, the blue, you see it's dark gray here, but on the bottom of that blue robe, that's where it went all around the bottom. So the Gemara says, why were there bells on the me'il? Isn't that a strange thing to have on a me'il, on a robe?
It's to warn people.
Oh.
Not to scare people.
What?
Not to scare people.
Oh, so one idea the Gemara says is that it's derech eretz. The reason why he wore it is derech eretz.
He's coming. The Kohen is coming.
Derech eretz, right? Derech eretz means you should have respect, and derech eretz means before you walk into a room, you knock on the door. So before the Kohen Gadol will go into the Holy of Holies, so he would wear the bells. The bells would make noise as he walks in. So it's like he's knocking on the door before he comes into the Kodesh Kodashim, to the Holy of Holies. That's one idea that's brought down. I think Rashi even says this. But that's the idea to have derech eretz. But there's another idea that the Gemara says here, that the Gemara says that the Me'il atones for Lashon Hara, for speaking evil. So the Gemara says, what does that mean? Because the Gemara says, let something that makes noise, davar shebakol, something that makes noise, should come and atone for someone that made noise and said some sounds of Lashon Hara. That's what the Gemara says. And therefore the Gemara says, you see that the Me'il atones for Lashon Hara. So the Gemara asks, yeah, but Jonathan just said that the way to get a kapara, if someone didn't spoke Lashon Hara, is he gets smitten with saras, leprosy. And he'll do teshuvah then. It's the point is, right, to do teshuvah. So which one is the key to getting kapara for Lashon Hara? Is it the me'il? Is it the long robe with the bells? Or is it the fact that he got leprosy and he'll do teshuvah? Which one is the right one?
How would the Kohen Gadol with the noise of the? I mean, very few people would be in the proximity of the Kohen Gadol to let it register something.
Yeah, but just by the fact that he wears it, just by the fact that Kohen Gadol wears it, gives an atonement out, right? When the Kohen Gadol puts on that me'il with the bells, that affects an atonement for someone who spoke Lashon Hara. It doesn't mean that the person who spoke
You
Lashon
can just
Hara.
speak Lashon Hara all day and just get atonement.
No.
It's on his jacket.
No.
Huh?
That you can't do, because the Gemara says that if someone says that I'll plan, you can't premeditate to do a sin. You cannot plan to premeditate it. Number one, tshuva only helps for someone who does it by mistake. Hashem doesn't help a person do tshuva if he does it on purpose. Premeditated sin, Hashem says, I'm not going to help you do teshuva. I'm not going to bring it to your hands. It's a big schos. It's a big merit to do teshuva. It's not simple. You need to meet the right person to do teshuva. You need to meet, and he has to tell you the right things which can enter one's mind to do teshuva. It's not simple. So Hashem says, if someone premeditates sin, he doesn't help him, and he even makes it hard that he should get into the right situation to do teshuva. And number two, to wipe out a sin, it's very hard. It's like cleaning a good stain. You ever got like a real stain, like a real ketchup stain on a shirt? So the Rabbeinu Yonah says, teshuva is like cleaning the ketchup stain. If you just take your knife and you brush off the ketchup, you cleaned it a little.
Yeah.
That's one level of cleaning. If you go take some water and try to brush it, that's another level of cleaning. That's the second level of teshuva. But there's another level. You could take the spray, off and spray the Dr. Clean, spray it in, put it in the washing machine, rub it. Rabbi Yonah says, the more you do teshuva, the cleaner it gets, till you won't see any more ketchup. So that's how much you have to do more and more teshuva. It's not simple to do that. Yeah.
But when you say it's like premeditated,
Yeah.
it's only premeditated in the sense that you say, I'm going to do it, and then tshuva to clean it.
Yeah.
But it's not someone who says I love bacon hamburgers. And he always would eat that, but 20 years later he decides to make the teshuva. That cleans it, even though
That cleans it. Yeah.
So it's only when you say, I'm going to do it, to do teshuva afterwards and clean it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
But if someone didn't know, he fell into a bad road of doing something wrong, he could do teshuva after, for sure. And Hashem will help him do teshuva. So the Gemara says, so what happens to someone who speaks Lashon Hara? Does he get his atonement by leprosy or by the bells, by the fact the bells go off? So the Gemara says that it depends what type of Lashon Hara was spoken. Was it Lashon Hara that did something, it took effect, and it hurt someone, or was it Lashon Hara that didn't have any after effects? Right? If it's Lashon Hara which I spoke out, I told someone bad about someone else, but it didn't hurt anyone, right? Let's say, your competitors'
Sometimes
business,
you're
right?
obligated to do that. Like in the shidduchim, you have to be careful about what you're saying, what you're not saying, but you can't also put somebody in a bad spot because you're prevented from speaking.
So Irving wants to know, let's say you're called up about your someone who sits next to you, your neighbor who sits next to you in shul, and he's single, and they ask you, what about this fellow sits next to you in shul? I'm looking into him for a shidduch for my daughter, and this guy talks the whole shul. He talks the whole time in shul. So you tell the guy, well, I don't know if you should look into this shidduch because the guy talks from the time he walks in. He just stops to put on his tallis. After he puts on his tallis, he's talking. And the only time he stops talking is when he goes to the bathroom, that he leaves. But so what do you think? So Irving says, so you're supposed to say something. That's not a problem. You're obligated to say Lashon Hara because it's for toelis. It's for a good purpose. So what do you want to know? How do you undo that?
Is that so? But you're obligated to come out with these things to prevent somebody from
doing an avera.
So what's the answer to that? So therefore, you don't need teshuva on that.
Okay.
You did not do anything wrong. If someone says Lashon Hara lito elis for a positive purpose, then that's a mitzvah. That's a mitzvah. That's written in the same book of the Chafetz Chaim that's called Chafetz Chaim, the Hilchos Lashon Hara, that says don't say anything bad about someone. In the same book, it says that if it's for a constructive purpose, for a job or a shidduch or something, someone wants to know, should I move into this neighborhood or something, there it's a mitzvah to say that it's not a good place for you if it's a constructive purpose. So therefore you won't need any teshuvah because you did a mitzvah. That's the answer. It's a mitzvah. You don't even have to feel bad about saying it. Hashem wants you because He wants any bad situations to be avoided. So therefore that's good.
But isn't your comment, it's your personal subjective comment? Maybe it's not.
But that okay, but
that seems to be the
maybe
situation.
you're the only one that gets bothered by the talking. Maybe everyone else likes it.
No. But you have. That's why we're all judges. That's what Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. You heard of the great Rabbi Yisrael Salanter? We're all judges, and we have to try to refine our midos that we're able to know that if something that he's doing is not right, and that you're judging and saying, and therefore I think I'm obligated to say this. And he's doing something not right, and it's bad for the person who's calling me to have a shidduch with him. You have to use your good judgment. That's right.
So in a Haredi environment, there should be no newspapers that have any kind of comments about anything.
For sure. You should make sure, and make sure don't get such newspapers. And I'll tell you something, because not only is there a problem to write something, which is Lashon Hara,
to hear it is also you're guilty.
So you also cannot hear it, and therefore you can also not read something, which is Lashon Hara, because if you read it, that's called Kabbalah Lashon Hara. That's accepting. You cannot accept.
Isn't it even worse to hear it than to say it? If I remember.
So the hearing is you're giving because you're giving him like
support or something.
An audience. Yeah. It's like the mouse takes the cheese. Right. It's only because the mouse has a hole where to bring the cheese to. So the hole is the problem.
But there's no audience. You can't say it.
The audience. Right. So. You're right. So therefore you have to be careful what you read. And if you ever read something which is Lashon Hara, so what should you do? You should tell yourself, I don't believe it. You should not accept it. Because if you accept it, then that would be accepting Lashon Hara. Right? Although he set you up, but you can't do it. You can't accept it. So if you don't accept it, then it's okay. Because you didn't accept the Lashon Hara. He tried to tell you it, but you said, I'm not listening. So the Gemara says that's the difference between the Me'il and Taras. Taras is for someone. Yeah.
Is Lashon Hara only between Yidden, or is it against?
Against who?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good question. But it would seem that it's only with Jews. I could check up right here just to make sure. Because it says, the words of our verse that we started reading is, Lo selech rachel be'amecha. What does be'amecha mean?
Your people.
In your people.
But doesn't it make sense though to apply it to all people? To put up a kind of a barrier, a fence? Otherwise you start talking about someone that's not.
No, it's true. It's not good to speak bad about anyone. That's true. It's not good to speak about anyone. But it could be.
It might not be an Avera.
Right.
If you're speaking about somebody not Jewish.
Right. We'll have to check up to see that exact point. But just to bring out what the answer to when a person gets saras and when he just gets an atonement by the bells. Right. So the answer is, it depends what type of Lashon Hara he spoke. If he spoke Lashon Hara to his friend, and his friend heard it, but it didn't have any consequence. Like, let's say a competition, right? What's a competition? What do they do, right? Let's say you deliver to the stores, right? What do? You sell little toys, right?
Wrapping paper. So let's say, Chas v'Shalom, your big competitor. What's the name of it? Okay, we won't say the name of the big competitor.
No.
That'll be Lashon Hara already. Well, let's say the big competitor, they go over to the store that you like to deliver to, and they say, do you know Nathan has his wrapping paper is not good quality. And they tell that variety store, they say, don't buy your wrapping paper from him. It's bad quality, it's going to fall apart. So they spoke Lashon Hara. But luckily, Nathan already has been building up a good name for 30 years. So the variety store owner said, thank you very much. But I know Nathan, if he's coming to my store, he's giving me good wrapping paper. I don't believe one word that you're telling me. And he says, I'm not makabel. I do not accept one word that you say. So he tried to say Lashon Hara, but the variety store owner, he said, I'm not listening. I'm not going to accept it. And it didn't cause any damage to you. So, right, it all depends how much damage was caused. right? Or let's say the competitor tells someone else. He tells someone else lashon hara, but it doesn't cause you any harm. It doesn't cause you a bad name, right? Let's say he just tells a third party. Then you need leprosy. Then he needs leprosy to get atonement because he spoke lashon hara. But when he went and tells a variety store owner the wrapping paper is no good, and the variety store owner says, "Oh, maybe you're right. Okay, I better not buy from him," and he doesn't buy from him, then is his action, his lashon hara helped. Then you need to have the me'il. That's why you need that robe to give atonement, because it actually was effective what he said. So it's much worse. So you need a higher level of atonement. You need the me'il. You need that to give atonement. That's how the Gemara answers here, whether it depends how much it helped. So we see lashon hara, although it's just the act of talking, but it all depends how much was accepted. That's the degree, how heavy it will be a sin. Depending on how much was accepted and how much damage was done, that's how big the sin was. So you can have two people with the same background, and they both go over to two different people and they say the same exact words, but it all depends what damage was done. If one caused a lot of damage, that's much worse than the other one who said the same words, but to a different person who didn't get it, wasn't so much damage. So if there's not so much damage, then if there was nothing damage, then he doesn't even have to do teshuvah because it wasn't even accepted.
So do we learn from the example of Miriam and Moshe that it's better just not to have compassion for anybody? She had compassion on her sister-in-law, Moshe's wife. And so is it better that you have to just mind your own business and not say anything to anybody about anything? I mean, she didn't do it for a personal...
Yeah, but she didn't know. Miriam spoke about Moshe, but she underestimated his greatness. She thought that Moshe is like me. Moshe is one of us. So if Moshe should be doing like I'm doing, and Moshe is not acting the way I'm doing, so she misjudged him. She spoke lashon hara because she judged him that he's on her level and he should be acting like him.
Wasn't it she felt compassion for her sister-in-law that her sister-in-law didn't have a husband anymore?
It's true, but the reason she felt compassion is she also thought that it was deserving that her sister-in-law should have Moshe, and Moshe she thought was doing something wrong. She thought Moshe was separating himself from Tzipporah, and she thought Moshe's own decision, Moshe really should be with his sister-in-law and he was with his wife, and Moshe separated. She thought Moshe did something wrong. So on that Hashem said to Miriam, do you know who you're talking about?
Right.
You think Moshe...
He became a different man.
Moshe's on a different level. You can't compare yourself with Moshe, and the proof is Hashem quickly came and called Miriam and Aaron, quickly. And they said, well, 1 second, we need water because we're tamei. And they said quickly, we're not ready to hear, we're not pure to hear the word of God. And they were screaming for water, for a mikvah. So Hashem said, Moshe is on the level that he could talk to me any minute. He has to be pure. You think you're on the same level that, well, you could talk to Hashem. No, Moshe was on a much higher level and they misjudged him. That was the problem. It was all right to have compassion, but it has to be a real judgment knowing that Moshe did something wrong. They thought Moshe did something wrong, but he really didn't.
So the bigger damage caused is the bells.
Right. The bells make noise, and it helped. So there the Gemara says that helped. Right. Hanu Maisov. His actions went out and made noise, and therefore he needs an atonement with that. So there you see. Actually, I take that back. I take that back.
That was more personal.
I take that back. I take that back. I see that the Gemara says that the ve'il, the bells, were for someone who no one accepted the lashon hara. It never, maybe it was lashon hara, someone heard it, but it never caused him any damage. Yes, that's really should be the right idea. The Gemara says, the Hanu Maisav, where it helped, that's the case where it helped. You're right. If it helped, then you need saras, which also makes sense. Saras, he has to do a whole teshuvah process, much more lengthy than, that's where it helped. But where he just said something and no harm or damage ever reached him, then the bells are atoning. So you see from here how the lashon hara is, we go after the root, as we said right at the beginning. The root is how much damage is caused. That's how big the avera is. Those words could be a big avera or a little avera. It depends on how much damage is caused. And therefore you have to be careful, even just to write, or even just to signal. Signaling can also be lashon hara. That's also very important. Anything which causes a friend damage, you just make a signal. You could.
So you can do with your eyes something to somebody and not.
If it causes him damage, that's very terrible, and that will be lashon hara. It will be lashon hara without even speaking.